So, hello everyone and welcome to our service. I'm Louise Reeve, Chairperson at Newcastle-on-Tyne Unitarians. Welcome to our Flower Communion service, to those who are here in our building and to those who are joining us online on Zoom. Welcome Stephen, welcome all of us. We begin, as always, by saying aloud the values that unite our community, Newcastle-on-Tyne Unitarians. Well, as three thinkers, we do not have a statement of what we all believe, because what we do have is a statement of the values we hold in common as we journey together. We welcome all who seek the meaning of life, and who believe that human spirituality is wider than any one tradition and deeper than any one set of opinions. With a respect for our Christian origins, we seek to explore all truths from all sources. Our fellowship gives us strength and encouragement in daily living. We also seek to make a positive difference in our world, and I'll be talking later on about a charity I'd like to suggest we might consider supporting. If you are sitting here wondering what the Flower Communion is and what Candles of Joy and Concern are, do not worry, all will be made clear. But for now, I will light our chalice. These words are offered by Justine Magara, who is the leader in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kenya. This is the chalice lighting for June 2021 from the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists. We light our chalice to welcome the Spirit of life into our lives today and forevermore. May this light rekindle the faith, trust, hope and love, which is the true image of the Spirit of life, and we are made in the Spirit's image. May this light remind us to give thanks to the one and only source of our lives. May this light remind us that we are skillfully crafted and we are the masterpiece of our Creator. The divine Spirit of life, who has great mystery on how to talk with infants, people who are deaf and blind, and all of us. The one who speaks to the wind when to move and when to stop. May this light carry our prayers to the Spirit of life in giving glory and seeking forgiveness over our brokenness. We light the chalice in a special way to ask for a divine healing for our earth. May the flame be the symbol of our prayers and hopes, burning to heaven as a sweet-smelling aroma. As the flame burns and the wax melts away, let also our pain melt away. As the flame goes up and the wax melts away, let us remember the spirits of our loved ones who have left this life to go in peace and move on and live in paradise. May this be our humble prayer. Amen. And we will now have our first hymn. Sadly, we can't sing it yet, but let's hope that in a few weeks or maybe months' time we will be able to sing. But for now, we will listen once more to hymn number 13, Bring Flowers to Our Altar.
Silence.
Hello, welcome to the Flower Communion. Soon we'll talk about how this unique service was created by a man whose devotion to his congregation never failed, even in the face of the darkest hours of the Second World War. But before we do that, I'd like to draw your attention to something unusual which is on the altar before me. These are the flowers on the altar, both actual flowers, but the ones that are unusual are playing cards. I will shortly share an image of them on Zoom for people who are joining us there, and those of you who are present in the building can see that we have playing cards with pictures of flowers on. If you can't see them clearly, don't worry, you'll see them shortly when you walk up here. So I will now take a moment to just put up a slide showing the flower cards for people joining us online. Join Zoom, click the slide and choose a flower card. Those of us here in person will eventually walk up to the altar and choose a card in person. So when you have chosen a flower, please put it in the chat. Whilst people are choosing, and when you come up to the front, let me invite everyone to think about what flowers mean to you, whether there are flowers that you've grown yourselves, ones that are particular favourites, or flowers that have special associations, perhaps memories of loved ones. Perhaps there's a flower that in some way represents yourself. I should add that it's traditional at a flower communion for everyone coming to be asked in advance to choose a flower and bring it. For various reasons, the fact that this is a service with people attending both in person and online, and also the fact that much as we'd like to think we're at the end of the pandemic, sadly we're not quite there yet. For this time I have gone for cards with flowers on. This is a bit of a first, so we might actually be the first congregation to try doing a service of flower communion both online and in person. So thank you all for coming on this journey with me. Let's hope it all works. So let me see if we have any choices. So we've chosen the rose card, and I am going to go to the front and choose the rose card, which I will hold on behalf of Stephen, who is joining us online. So, having chosen the rose, and myself having chosen the Chinese lantern, in memory of a lady who was actually the grandmother of a great friend of mine who loved to grow Chinese lanterns in the garden, I would now like to invite everybody here to come up to the altar as you are able and choose a flower card. Please do come up one by one, maintain social distancing, sanitize your hands. If anyone does not feel able to actually walk up here, please raise your hand and I'll be happy to come over and choose the flower for you. Thank you, everyone. Now that we have chosen our flowers, take a look at your card for a moment. Consider the flower's form and beauty. Think for a moment of what it means to you or whom or what it reminds you of. We'll now have a call to worship. I hope everyone has got an order of service, and I've put the words in the chat online. You will find the words for the call to worship on the back of the order of service. So, I believe we can all speak together. Please don't extemporise and sing, but I think we're good to speak. In this, our worship, we celebrate the beauty of the earth, which is our home. Manifest to us, especially at this season, in the loveliness of flowers. We celebrate also our coming together to make a community of worshippers, each of us bringing ourselves, symbolised in the flowers that each of us has chosen in this, our chosen sanctuary. We come together also to remember and give thanks for human sacrifice, which has enriched our heritage and brought for us the freedoms we enjoy. Praise be to the God of our lives, the creative spirit, for all that is beautiful, all that is shared, and all that is given and received in love. May it be so. And now our first reading, introducing the Flower Communion. Flower Communion is sometimes called the most distinctively Unitarian service, but what is it? It was created in the 1930s by the Reverend Dr. Norbert Čapek, who was the founder of the modern Unitarian movement in Czechoslovakia. Here is the history of the Flower Communion as written by the Reverend John Midgley. When, in 1938, Hitler's armies invaded the country which was then known as Czechoslovakia, and throughout the years of the Second World War, terrible suffering was inflicted upon the ministers and people of all the churches in that country. The Czech National Church had a liberal Hussite tradition, and among the other denominations present were Unitarians, whose church in Prague and in other cities was founded by Reverend Dr. Norbert Čapek. Čapek originated from Radomyšl, a small village in the southern part of what was then known as Bohemia. He came from a poor family, and after leaving school he trained as a tailor. But his great love was religion, religious ideas and church communities. He first converted to the Baptist Church and eventually trained as a Baptist minister. His ministerial work was successful, but under the influence of various teachers and writers, including lectures from the great preacher of the social gospel, Walter Rauschenbusch, he became more and more convinced that Christianity should have a distinctively social message, that God was to be regarded as a parent of the human family, the human Jesus was our elder brother, and that our task was to create a new and better society for everyone. He also had a strong sense of the mystery of God. One of his hymns begins, "Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the sky song, in the forest, sounds your cry. What to give you, what to call you, what am I?" And the last verse is, "Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, take our hearts. Take our breath and let our voices sing our parts. Take our hands and let us work to shape our art." As his religious ideas became increasingly liberal, he joined and became active in an international religious organisation, now called the International Association for Religious Freedom, the IARF, which was founded in 1900 by Unitarians. At the 1910 Berlin AIRF Congress, he met active Unitarians, including officers of the American Unitarian Association. Čapek also attended congresses in London, Copenhagen, Boston and Oxford. He left Czechoslovakia for a while, living and working in America as a journalist. There he encountered Unitarian ideas and made contact with Unitarian headquarters. But soon he returned to his homeland. With the support of the American Unitarian Association and later support from the British Unitarians, he was able to establish a new religious movement. It flourished with large congregations and an active children's programme. Among the members of the congregation in Prague were many ex-Catholics who, reacting strongly against the Catholic faith as they had experienced it, had come to find the traditional communion service with bread and wine unacceptable. Feeling that his church needed some sort of communion ceremony, Čapek turned to the native beauty of the countryside for elements of a communion service that could be meaningful to his congregation. The flower communion soon became one of their most significant services. Traditionally, it is carried out by having everyone bring a flower, having it collected during the service, and then having everyone choose a flower which is different to the one that they came in with on the way out. We will have our own version of that later on. So the flower communion soon became one of their most significant services, and under his inspiring leadership, the new liberal religious movement flourished in Prague and elsewhere in the country. Small of stature, Čapek was nonetheless acclaimed as one of the nation's leading orators. He wrote more than 90 hymns, often composing the music as well as the words. When it became clear, however, that the Nazis would invade Czechoslovakia, Čapek's friends urged him to leave the country. His wide reputation as a religious liberal, his activities as a hymn writer, newspaper editor, preacher, teacher and lecturer put him in a dangerous position. He refused to go, but his wife Maya left at the last moment. Čapek continued his work, which became increasingly risky. Reverend Eric Price takes up the story as follows. Because of the monotheistic beliefs of Unitarians, he was able to accept into membership a number of Jews who would otherwise have been rounded up by the Gestapo. This gave them precious time in which to plan their escape from the country. When after 2 years this merciful plan was discovered, Dr. Čapek, along with his daughter Zora, was arrested. She for the crime of listening to the BBC on the radio, and he for the same offence and for high treason. Several of his sermons were cited as evidence of the latter charge. Listening to foreign broadcasts was a capital offence under the Nazi protectorate. Eventually, he was sent to Dachau concentration camp and Zora to a labour camp. Almost a year after his arrest, Čapek's name appears among prisoners sent on October the 12th, 1942, to Hartheim Castle near Linz in Austria, where he died of poison gas. Before his death, Dr. Čapek's courage in the face of torture and starvation was a source of inspiration to his fellow prisoners. Some of those who survived testified that the Unitarian leader could not have been sent to a place where he was more needed than Dachau. Fortified by his words and example, they held on despite the grim agonies of the camp, which was to live in history as a horrible example of Nazi bestiality. When news of Dr. Čapek's death reached America in 1945, the then president of the American Unitarian Association, Dr. Frederick May Elliott, wrote, "Another name is added to the list of heroic Unitarian martyrs, by whose death our freedom has been bought." Since that time, many Unitarian churches in America celebrated the Flower Communion. In 1965, Reverend Eric Price brought a version of the service and the story of Norbert Čapek to Britain. Since then, an increasing number of UK Unitarian congregations have held the service annually. It is held partly for its own intrinsic beauty, partly as a symbolic expression of giving and receiving in our worship together as a congregation, and also as a fitting memorial for Norbert Čapek, who created this service in happier times. So, the day on which we all celebrate the beauty of our world as it is seen in flowers, let us rejoice in all we give and receive from our freedom to worship together as our hearts and minds prompt us. And at a time when we can see greater freedoms returning to what is now the Czech Republic and to other parts of Europe, this service has become for many of us also a kind of Unitarian Saints' Day, remembering those who faced some of the grimmest times in human history. Norbert Čapek's life of service reached its climax in great courage in the face of appalling tragedy. Let us remember him in our worship as we share the beauty of flowers. May it be so. So now our next reading. This is Flowers by Roger Courtney. Let us give thanks for the beauty of flowers, plants and trees. They teach us some important lessons about life if we are prepared to listen. Life is extraordinarily beautiful. Even a single flower can fill us with wonder, joy and thanksgiving. Life is extraordinarily diverse. Every flower is different. Its shape is different, its colour is different, its smell is different. Part of the beauty of flowers is in their great diversity. Flowers naturally blossom and display their radiant glory when they are ready. We too naturally blossom as human beings if we follow our inner directed destiny. Life needs the right external conditions to flourish. Flowers need the right soil and enough water and sunshine to grow and bloom successfully. We too need to ensure that other human beings have the resources and love to flourish as unique human beings. Flowers need go-betweens like butterflies on the wind and bees to spread the pollen and help species of flowers to grow and expand. We too are called to help build bridges between people and help spread the pollen of peace and reconciliation. We celebrate and give thanks for the joy and beauty of flowers, plants and trees that can heal and renew us and teach us so much about ourselves and this incredible world we live in. And it's active participation time again. We are going to bring our flowers to the altar. At this point, we give our flowers away by bringing the cards up and putting them back on the altar as a collective offering of our united worship, knowing that this consists of both giving and receiving. As part of this, we're going to have candles of joy and concern. For those who haven't yet experienced it, it's a Unitarian practice where at this time in our service we pause to reflect on our week. We think about milestones, joys, concerns and sorrows, changes in our lives, people we know who need our healing thoughts. Here is where, as we choose, we may share with each other what's in our hearts. So in a moment, I will invite everyone to come up to the altar one by one to return your flower card, and if you wish, you may light a candle, stand behind the microphone, and state what personal joy, concern or milestone has touched you this week. May I comment as a safety note, if you'd like to stand behind the microphone and share, please come round this side because there are a couple of wires there because that's where the plug socket is. Don't trip over wires. So you may also light a candle in silence if that's what you'd prefer to do. If you are joining us online, please post in the chat if you would like me to light a candle on your behalf and includes any words you might like me to say. You may choose to light a candle or not as you wish, but as you are able, please come up to the front and place your flower cards ready for the flower communion. Again, if for any reason it's difficult for you to come up to the front, please raise your hand and I'll be happy to do that on your behalf. But I will go first and lead by example. I will return mine and Stephen's cards to the front of the altar, and I'm also going to light a candle. It's always a pleasure to lead the flower communion. Partly because it reminds me of our great friend Fiona Tate, who was the first person, along with Helen, to introduce flower communion to Newcastle-on-Tyne Unitarians back in 2014. Soon we'll make our final visit to the altar to choose the flowers we will take away with us, and then we'll go to have some coffee and cake and a discussion. But first, a few words. Earlier we heard that old favourite, "We Sing the Roses Waiting." It's a hymn very often heard at the flower communion, but it's a bit of an odd one to choose. If you don't know the lyrics off by heart, actually I don't either, I've just heard them a lot. The reference is, "We sing the roses waiting beneath the deep piled snow." That's the only reference to flowers in it, and right now we're at the furthest end of the year from snow. The summer solstice has just been and gone. The roses aren't waiting, but they're blooming in the garden. But the song speaks of things lying dormant and waiting for the right moment, and it seems especially appropriate, I think, for this present moment. This past 15 months has in some ways been like one long winter. Some of us waited dormant and hidden away, feeling that our lives were on hold and hoping for better times when, like seeds, we could flower and emerge into the sunshine. Some of us had to face the bitter chill of working on the front line where jobs could not be done from home, and they experienced great risk and stress. Others faced hard times and danger due to their health conditions or those of their loved ones, and as we know, some people did not survive. That hymn also says, "We sing when night is darkest, the day's returning glow." The art, I think, is to hold both in balance, the darkness and the light. Last week, Diana led our service on living with poverty. She mentioned a couple of times that it's not the most cheerful of subjects, but I thought it was an excellent subject. I don't think any of us expects to come here and hear only that everything is rosy in the garden, when we can see with our own eyes that the world is naturally a mix of darkness and light, sometimes tending more toward one than the other. But always there is both. In the same way, "All Things Bright and Beautiful" is often sung at the flower communion or also later in the year at harvest. It's a great hymn, so long as you leave out the fourth verse. Whenever I hear "the rich man at the castle, the poor man at the gate," I mentally complete the rest of the verse as means we need some progressive taxation and a more democratic state. This is why people don't let me write hymns. And I'm also incapable of hearing it without remembering also the Monty Python version, "All things dull and ugly." Monty Python was, of course, quite right. Alongside the little flower that opens and the little bird that sings, we have also the little snake that poisons and the little wasp that stings, all of which have their place in the ecosystem. So at this time, when through flower communion we celebrate our community, we do so with all that our hearts contain, our joys and our concerns. Our whole selves are here. We do not pretend that our world contains only the light and only the joy. We know and acknowledge that light and darkness, joy and sorrow are all a part of our being. And when we take our flowers from the altar, we do so knowing that this community is here with us and for us. We're all travellers on this journey together.